Hi there everyone, welcome back to Cody's Lab. So back in 2014 I had a bunch of hives die, and I ended up recovering a lot of the honey that was still in the hives. I crushed the comb and I put it inside of this thing here and then run it through a strainer to recover most of the honey. But this here where the wax is that was retained by the screen still contains a lot of honey. Zoom in on this here. So you can see the wax is very gooey. And in fact, what happened here is the screen eventually got plugged up and then the honey actually crystallized in the wax. This happens very quickly to honey that has wax in it because the wax, the sharp edges, after it breaks, kind of acts as nucleation sites so that the honey can crystallize very quickly. And so this thing here is a nice hard lump of wax honey mixture. It's probably actually by weight mostly honey, and I ended up saving it. It's been sitting down in my parents' basement for a long time, and I think today I'm finally going to recover the honey from it. And the wax too, I guess. So, let me move the camera here. See, on the stove I've got two pans. One that's slightly smaller than the other, and the space between them is filled with water. You can see this one's kind of floating. So I've got a double boiler set up. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this big lump of wax, and assuming it'll fit, I'm going to stick this down inside of this pot. I'm going to render it and recover the honey and wax. So, there we go. So now I'll just get this water out here warming up. That'll soften the honey, liquefy the honey and soften and melt the wax. The wax will float as it liquefies because it's less dense than honey, and the honey will settle to the bottom. With in between we have all the contaminants like the pieces of dead moth, for instance. Just turn on the stove. This will take a very long time because I want to heat it slowly, and the wax takes a lot of energy to melt, and the honey doesn't have a very good thermal conductivity, so this could take hours to melt this thoroughly. So it's been a couple hours. Let's see how it's doing. Alright, so it looks like it's all melted. You can see a layer of wax. Oh, I fogged up my camera. Floating on top of the honey. You can't really see the honey, but it's down there. There's a bunch of crud floating in here. A lot of that is pollen, and maybe it's some paper cocoons from the bees, because I wasn't using a queen excluder. A lot of this is also probably the wax moth. Yeah, there's a wax moth cocoon right there. So you got like little silk filaments. I'm not going to worry too much about it for now. I can filter that out later. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the stove and then just let this cool. And then once it's solid, we can peel this wax up off the honey. And that should take all the impurities with it. So it's been a little over 24 hours since I turned off the heating. You can see it is all cooled off. And the wax is even separated from the pan a little bit, because it shrinks as it cools. You can see the honey is peeking up there. So to get this wax off the honey, I've got a fork here which I've bent the tines a little bit, so it's like a hook. So I can reach underneath and then pull up. The honey does kind of create a suction, so I have to pull slowly here. And there we go. Nice chunk of wax. There it is. I'm going to have to remelt this and run it through a filter to get rid of all this gunk. Oh, there you go. And all the honey is just dripping off into the pan. This honey is now cooked honey, so all the microbial benefits of it, you know, the pollen and stuff, all that's been destroyed. So now it's basically just flavored sugar. But that's alright. I can use it for, you know, baking or maybe making meat. This would be good stuff to make meat out of. I mean, I've already sanitized it, so. So as you can see, I've washed all the honey off the wax. I let it dry and then I broke it into pieces and I've got it into my wax melter here. So the wax is now melted and I'm going to ladle it out through this fine mesh sieve here. This is to get rid of all those little bits of stuff that was floating in the wax earlier. Some of this might actually be propolis now that I think about it. Yeah, that's a lot of what gives beeswax its color. It's made from tree sap and other materials that the bees bring back to the hive. Normally they use it to seal things up, but they also use it to disinfect everything. And bees also track it around on their feet. And so it gets all over the wax. If the wax is completely new, like the bees had just made it, you know, just excreted it out of their abdomens as fat. You know, wax is bee fat, by the way. It is brand new, it's white. It doesn't have that propolis in it. It also won't smell much different than you know, pure white candle wax either. So you can see that some finer particles did make it through the sieve, but they do settle out to the bottom of the wax, so I can just scrape them off after the wax is solidified. So I've decided to put the honey into some glass jars, and before it goes into the jar I'm going to run it through a little bit of a sieve here to take out any bits of material that didn't float out with the wax. So this will probably take a little while. Yeah, there's definitely some bits of stuff in there. Yeah, parts of bees and things like that. If you guys think that's gross, that I'd be eating something that's got pieces of bug in it, like you know, honeybee legs and stuff, keep in mind that chocolate bars are allowed to have 6 insect legs in them too. It's sold commercially, so it's not that big of a deal. One thing that I would like to mention about this is a lot of people say that if the honey's been cooked then it's okay to feed to young children. That is not true. The botulism spores, they're not killed by boiling water. And so I haven't had this any hotter than the temperature the water boils. In fact, it was probably somewhat less than boiling point of water. So this would still be something I wouldn't feed to an infant. But if you have like a piece of hard candy made from honey, that's probably fine, because it's been heated to a high enough temperature. In case you're wondering what honey tastes like after you've done this to it, it usually has a stronger taste, because it absorbs some stuff from the wax. In fact, this honey tastes about like beeswax smells. You know, on top of the original honey flavor. Sometimes it can be so bad that the honey will like burn your throat on the way down. It's just so strong. But if it's mixed with something, you know, like you're baking bread or something, then it's fine. This batch is pretty good, I think. Like, I could eat this just straight. So there we go. Managed to fill 4.5 jars, so that's over a gallon of honey that I was able to recover. It's really dark, as you can see. I think this will be pretty good. Still haven't quite decided what I'm going to use it for. I think a lot of it I might end up making honey wine out of. But that'll be a video for another time. And here's the beeswax now that it's all cooled off. You can see the part that I need to scrape off there. So this block weighs just over 2 pounds, and this is another a few ounces there. So it's a little over 1 kilogram worth of beeswax here. And just that's what I've had sitting in a bucket for, what is it, almost 4 years now? Actually 4 years. So I'll probably post on the main channel a video comparing beeswax to paraffin wax here pretty soon. So the beeswax seems like it's a little bit denser, much higher melting point, and it sticks to the container more as it cools. You know, I'll do a video comparing these two. You guys can probably tell I've been working with quite a lot of wax lately. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time. So the video that you guys just watched was originally intended to go up on the second channel, Cody'sLab, as part of the beekeeping series which I'm redoing. If you guys have been subscribed to me for a long time, you'll know that I used to do a lot of beekeeping videos, and I still want to do beekeeping videos, and so I'm actually redoing a large chunk of them and posting them up on the second channel so that I'm able to focus more on the science videos for this channel. Most of my subscribers have come on board for the science videos, but there's still a lot of people who like the bees, and so I'm posting most of the bee stuff over there. First episode's already out, so if you guys want to go check it out, it'll be down in the description. The second episode has been delayed a little bit. You guys can thank MatPat for that. I've got most of it filmed. I'm going to finish that up this weekend, and it'll be posted, early next week. This video didn't really fit in with the schedule of videos that I had planned, and it was really just tying up a loose end from the original series. And also, I didn't have anything to post on the main channel this weekend. The project I was working on fell through, and I don't have any time to work on anything till Monday. So, hope to see you over on the second channel. Until next time, I'll see you then.